That's so techno.
I want those sunglasses that go like over your head.
Yeah. All right, another week, another episode, boys. And it's a good one today.
It's going to be a good one.
Welcome back to the Coffee Sometimes podcast, where we talk about coffee sometimes. And today we're going to be talking about coffee, kinda, right?
Coffee adjacent.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about something I know I personally dealt with. Maybe you guys have too. Mm-hmm. Maybe you as the listener have as well. And that is feeling like your brand, your company, your business doesn't match up to the other established businesses in your industry, namely the coffee industry. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it might even be someone that you look up to, but, you know, you just feel like you don't measure up. And that's called imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome.
And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Chapter 8 of Unreasonable Hospitality. We're going to take some Q's and give you some A's.
Yep. And
we're going to brew up some coffee. And that's what we're going to do right now. Ross, what you got over there, buddy?
Well, we have the Stag XF Brewer.
Oh, yeah.
Woo! Extra filter.
In the mix. Wait, why is it extra filter?
That's what XF stands for.
Man, that's hilarious.
Because there's so much extra filter. Look at that.
Yeah, very ripply. Well, we have a seasonal blend that we do every season. Summer, winter, spring, fall. And also holiday blend.
Don't forget a holiday season.
How long have we been doing that? Is it 2 years
15 now? 15 years?
Jolly Juice was the first, right?
Thank you,
Yeah,
Dale.
we did Jolly Juice, and it went off without a hitch 2 years in a row. And so after the second year, we just said, let's do a seasonal blend for every season.
We might have added Hayride. Is that right?
Maybe.
Who's to say?
I don't know. We could go back in the archives. Anyways, this blend in particular for the season of summer has got to be my favorite one that we do.
You're kidding.
Let me be the first to say that Tanlines is my favorite seasonal blend that we do.
Those are some good points, boys, but let me be the first to say that Tanlines is my favorite seasonal blend.
And sometimes, you know, we like to be different. We like to be, you know, hip, you know, maybe a little against the grain. And say that, hey, you know, I like Hayride. But the reality is
I do like Hayride.
Well, of course. But Tanlines is the crowd favorite and the owner's favorite.
Sometimes you have to float the mainstream. I heard that.
Yeah. And so we're brewing that up on the Stag XF. We've got our fellow Stag
EKG.
So
we're not going to dive into all that.
Anyways, I'm really excited to taste this coffee with you guys. It was roasted yesterday, so it's a little fresh. I'll be honest with you.
Fresher the better. That's what they say, right?
Right out of the roaster, baby.
Can I tell you guys something really interesting I saw in my inbox from Scott Rayo?
Let me finish.
He was talking about resting coffee, and he says, in his opinion, that the loring and coffees roasted on a loring should have the longest rest period after roasting. He says you shouldn't drink any coffee from a loring for a week.
Uh-oh.
Isn't that something?
That sounds like something that we're going to have to test for ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, we taste old coffee all the time, and it always slaps.
Can I tell y'all something?
What?
Tell us, bull.
Every Wednesday and Saturday, I have been brewing Miracle pre-ground
8 months old,
roasted from August. That's 10 months old, and it still tastes like coffee. I'm like,
still tastes like coffee.
It still tastes like coffee, or it still tastes good? Because those are two different things.
I don't know how to say this, but I've stopped measuring across the board. Like, I just put coffee in, and I put water in, and then
bro, what is going on?
Please just have the camera on Ross the whole time.
Okay. I can tell you exactly what's going on.
You forgot to tear?
You put in too much coffee?
Is that how that's supposed to look?
It's like a maze to get the water into the...
All right, we're going to take a quick break and get another coffee filter.
And we're back with a fresh filter. Thanks, Ethan, for getting that. Yeah.
I was about to say that when I I scheduled a Tanlines post on Instagram that's going to go out today.
Yep.
And the caption says something along the lines of, ask anyone that's worked at Valor for a long time what their favorite coffee is. And they might probably just say it's Tanlines.
Yeah, fair enough. It's really great iced, which is convenient because summer is hot. And man, are we going to try this coffee on cold brew soon?
There's a rumor.
There's
a rumor.
Definitely chatter. Anyways, I'm going to brew this up for you guys and get it going.
Hey, Filtron or Toddy? That's all I'm going to say.
Filtron, taste-wise, but everything else about it is not good.
True that. Man, the felt filter, you know?
The felt filter, I felt bad about it because it's very hard to maintain, especially for a high-volume commercial setting.
We've never talked about our cold brew setup on air.
It's true. Hey, that's good content.
For another episode.
For another episode.
Hey, while you're brewing that up, we just have to say here, if you want to support our program, a great way to do it is by buying our coffee.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So maybe if you want to check down below, I'll have a link to Tanlines. If you want to try it, give it a taste, come back, comment on this video what you thought of it. Even if it's bad, we want to know. That would be great.
We're going to keep not taking ads because we're not going to let the mainstream media like control our podcast, you know?
That's right.
So we need this grassroots support.
That is
guys.
profound.
Because we're bringing like the heavy stuff, the heavy truth.
I've never thought about that ever.
Anyways.
Ross, it seems that you've been reaching for the XF lately. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I've been enjoying it. Do you want to know why?
Yes.
Because I have no idea. It just looks cool. Mm-hmm. That's kind of it, to be honest with you. And there's something to be said about that. If your product looks cool, people are going to reach for it. I guess one thing practically I like about it is as we've been well documented on this program, the drain time. It's you're in control of the drain time. Meaning, if you pour faster, it'll drain faster, and vice versa. But that's not always the case with other pour overs. They always getting clogged and stuff. So,
wow,
yeah. So I enjoy that I'm in control of the brew.
Hey, I just want to know a little small talk part. Ross, was there a show that you were obsessed with as a kid?
Yes.
What? And you can't say Psych. It has to be before that.
What do you mean before that?
Like there is no before Psych. Psych is just life.
Dude, I've been watching Psych since
day one.
Day one. Psych is by far my favorite television show of my whole life.
That is
past,
so
present, and future.
Forever and always.
There will never be another. Ever. Psych. That's my answer.
All right. Top 3 reasons you love Psych.
It's very hard to make me laugh at a television show or in a movie.
It's hard to make you laugh if it's not a joke that came out of your own mouth. Is that what you're trying to say?
That's not
That's
true.
a burn.
I just laughed. Okay.
Dude, you were talking.
But it was about you.
Dude, I am literally rafflecoptering the whole time Psych is on. Have we ever watched Psych together?
Never seen an episode.
So we haven't watched it together? See, I'm funny. How can you blame?
Smash like if you think Ross is freaking hilarious.
Anyways, Care Bear, can you please like this video? Thank you. Yeah, Psych, absolutely. So it's funny.
So did your parents just watch Psych?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's bit driven. So there's recurring bits with lots of callbacks to other episodes. I love that.
Do they do flashbacks?
Yeah. That's probably not my favorite part about it, but they do. Actually, they do that every episode.
Right.
Did you?
Huh. Well, I'm just more into like linear story progression. So
Thank you.
Okay, well, this Psych is not for you.
just kidding.
Anyways, so all my Psych lovers out there, comment your favorite episode, your favorite character.
I think you might be the first person to ever brew a pour over while talking about Psych on a podcast.
Is that like a demographic thing? Like people that like Psych usually don't make stuff on the Stag Eggs?
I don't know anything about the demographic of people who are watching Psych. But Ethan, how about you?
I'm a classic, man. SpongeBob SquarePants for my younger years and
SBSP, huh?
yeah, the Legend of What?
Right? Is that it?
And then friggin' The Office for when I got into the double digits.
Do you have a favorite episode of SpongeBob?
Dude, there's some heavy hitters. I don't know, man.
Doodle Bob, maybe?
No, dude, Doodle Bob was scary. I was scared by SpongeBob. Like when SpongeBob and Patrick get stuck in Sandy's house during hibernation, like that episode scared me. But then also, I was about to say the one where SpongeBob rips his pants on the beach. But that one's just sad. I'm an empath. Okay.
That
so let me
sounds
explain
like,
this.
and a fool who went and ripped his pants.
I know I shouldn't.
Dang, that's good.
Probably favorite episode is when he's trying to get into the salty spittoon?
Oh, yeah.
And then he has to go to Weenie Hut General after walking in and slipping on a cube of ice.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably my favorite.
That's good content.
Weenie Hut General. That's good. Hey, man, how about you?
I watched a lot of TV as a kid.
Yeah, me too. And we turned out just fine.
Totally addicted to my phone, but anyways, I watched some SpongeBob, but I guess the one I call back to the most is Dragon Ball Z.
This is true for you.
I rewatched the entire thing a couple years back. Took so long.
How long?
I mean, it took me months. There's just so many episodes. And there's so much.
Do you think it increases extraction if you WDT the brewed coffee?
I
think we've said this on the program 3 times.
I know. It was a callback, okay?
Oh,
It was a callback.
Dude,
Well, I
you
thought
need to start
you-
doing callbacks in the podcast. Like we'll say something and be like,
Like it turns to black and white.
yeah.
That sounds like a lot of editing.
and everything's super deep voice too, like slow motion.
Yes. Dragon Ball,
Dragon Ball?
loved it. I just loved the action. I loved the transformations.
There's nothing higher action than Dragon Ball Z.
But watching it as an adult, you're just like, there are so many episodes of filler. Like even the show is back on now as a new series called Dragon Ball Super, and they're in this thing called the Tournament of Power. And I think at some point they're like, there's only 5 minutes left or something like that. And the 5 minutes spans probably 20-minute episodes.
Whoa.
That's how like time works in this show. And you're just like, this isn't making a lot of sense.
I thought you liked linear time.
Well, it's all linear.
Yeah, but it's just slower.
Yeah.
But now you're saying you don't like it?
No, I
So
like it.
which is
it's
it?
like it linear and extremely slowed down. Dragon Ball has so many flashbacks, so I'm just kidding. It's not all about linear to me.
Okay. Like Lake?
Lake Lanier, dude.
Sorry. All right.
Linear.
Hey, how's that catfish doing? You ever get it mounted? Everybody's been asking.
I've paid a taxidermist copious amounts of money.
$600.
I caught a fish last night on my daughter's Barbie pole.
Congrats.
Yep. It was,
Dude, you said pull.
I know I did. It was not in the pool. It was in the lake. But anyways, it was a good time.
Amazing. Can't wait to try this coffee. Huh?
Can I say something? Can I issue a public apology?
Please.
I actually heard about this from a couple people. I was really loud when I started the episode last week.
That's okay, man.
Hey.
Don't worry.
And someone said that it hurt their ears.
Who?
Caleb Hall, our technician partner.
Caleb.
Okay, actually,
we
I-
use a compressor, Caleb.
I feel bad now. That's Caleb.
And like his job probably revolves around like using his ears to listen for, issues in espresso
Like
machines.
with the giggler.
Yeah.
You could have impeded his work, and that's not okay. So
Yep. So Caleb, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for apologizing, Ethan.
And I'll keep my voice mellow and calm and quiet.
All right. Chapter 8, Unreasonable Hospitality, where we really get into some stuff. I feel like we're wading in waters that we've treaded before.
Ross? Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
What about you, Ethan? Do you think that too?
I also think that we are wading in some waters.
Wading in waters.
We're wading in water. Wading in waist high water. One of my favorite songs. Huh? Yeah, dude. He's in the nitty gritty now. If you're reading along, a lot of it seems like maybe an overarching theme of this chapter correlates to one thing that's very near and dear to our hearts here at Valor Coffee, challenging the status quo. Okay? Not just doing things for the sake of tradition. This chapter starts off with a story, an anecdote of him getting chastised for touching a table at his fine dining restaurant.
Yep.
I would have never known to not touch the table.
Same.
Seems like there's a lot of fine dining 101 kind of stuff out there.
Yeah.
But he mentions later, he says, did a rule bring us closer to our ultimate goal, which was connecting with people? Such a good question to ask.
Yeah.
Such a good question to ask. I think we can get lost in just how the business operates. And sometimes even I can forget about the touch point of like, this is all unto connecting with our guests, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff that was rooted in tradition was born in an era where servers were really looked down upon and almost second-class citizens compared to the people that were eating at these fine dining establishments. So, I mean, I don't know the history of all this, but that's my assumption. If the server isn't allowed to touch the table, clearly you are, othering them.
Yeah.
And so his quote saying, a rule born out of tradition that doesn't serve the guest, or worse, one that stands in the way of a staff member being able to cultivate an authentic relationship with the person they are serving, that wasn't going to work. So you have, these like, just things have changed, is what I'm trying to say. People want
wake up
that relationship with the person that they're talking to,
totally. Especially
in the higher end things. And I mean, partly because of EMP and how they're doing. Think about the restaurants that we're going to. I'm sure we aren't going to more traditional fine dining restaurants, but a part of the fun of going to Kimball House is like your server's not afraid to cut up with you a little bit.
Yeah.
Or curse. I say a curse word.
They might even curse.
You want to tell that story?
I just don't really know how it all shook out.
I know exactly how it shook out, so I'll tell it.
Wait, can you pour this out?
Yeah, for sure.
I just can't finish it.
We were at one of our favorite restaurants, Kimball House. Great Atlanta area restaurant. If you ever want to go somewhere that's gonna blow your socks off, go there. Great bar program.
Oh yeah.
Great steaks, great food. So we were at Kimball House, and our server was amazing. He was doing a great job, and he let a curse word fly.
Which one?
I think it was the F one.
Okay.
He went straight to the F-bomb.
Listen, the drinks were pouring. I probably did the same.
Hey.
And Ethan thought it was funny, and then the manager came over, and the manager goes around and like asks, how things are going. And Ethan was like, "Oh, everything's great. Our server did cuss though, like, as a joke, clearly, and he clearly laid it out as a joke, and we all laughed about it like at that moment. And then our server came back later, and he was like, "Hey, I heard you told on me," and I don't know if he was being serious or not.
So yeah, we don't know how it shook out. I didn't know if he was being serious.
Well, regardless, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
that I told on a server for cussing,
and it got back to him. Yeah.
Gosh, he's got to be willing to say something to someone's face.
Yeah, not to their manager.
I was just scared.
He was buff.
He was jacked. He was jocked.
Anyways,
jocked. Okay. He tells a story. So, yeah, he's talking about challenge the status quo. Within that, he says this thing I wanted to just toss to you guys too.
Do it.
Muscle memory isn't always a good thing. Training like that can also be putting on a pair of blinders. So just like how an athlete engages in repetition to like hone their craft over and over again, that is sometimes the best thing for you, like repetition. And sometimes it can be a hindrance towards growth because you get stuck in your rut.
Yeah.
Isn't that? I've never thought about it like that.
Well, I think there's some things that you should put reps in on, like the fundamentals.
What's reps in?
And there's some things that you shouldn't put reps in. Because the whole point of fundamentals in practice is that when you're playing the game, it comes naturally. And the things that are the basic building blocks, the coffee.
I just took a sip. This pleases me.
It's 50% Kenya Nairi Hill Estate, washed.
Double A?
50%
Double A.
Ethiopia Workasakaro Anaerobic Natural. What could go wrong?
Nothing.
Hey, I just need 6 more days. I'm just going to let this sit for 6 more days.
I think my point is, like, if you're putting tons of reps in your script.
Ask your doctor about Repsin.
Your script when you walk up to a table, that's not a fundamental. You should leave that organic.
Yeah.
But then there's some things like how you pick up 4 plates, or how you pour latte art, or how you work the square register that need to just come naturally, and the only way to do that is through Repsin.
Repsin can help you hone your craft.
It's amazing.
Well, that was really nice, Ross. Hey, can I tell you guys something else about the book that I liked?
Yes.
Yes.
He goes on to talk about the importance of a united team. He says, if you don't trust the people behind you, then you're never going to perform that huge, heroic hospitality gesture, or even a tiny one that ultimately saves the day. Don't you guys just feel that?
I do feel that.
You got to feel seen at work. You got to feel safe. All right. And it's true. Like, if you're like, the team is the nucleus. I was talking about this with someone else. I was like, if that is having fun and like you feel safe, that's when you take your risks. You can jump out of the bird's nest. But if you're just waiting for mama to come back to the nest, you're never going to get out.
Wow. I completely agree. There's a lot that goes into that, and it's messy.
Sometimes. Oh, community. Oh,
it's messy.
It's messy.
But it's
worth it.
Wow.
So true, though.
How would someone, a lot of his point is you got to hire the right person,
Sure.
And of course we agree. That's what we try to do as well.
That's why we ask everybody.
He's saying, he says in a specific section that some of his staff would rather work extra hours for 3 months while they find the right person than them hire the wrong person. And to that, I say, yes. How do you do that in the job pool of, as it has stood? I think it's, we're seeing it change a little bit, but especially there were some times when no one was applying.
True.
And how do you handle that situation? Is that a reflection on your business? I don't think necessarily.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thought.
That's complex.
I think we did that. I mean, whenever the employment crisis was at its peak and we needed to hire people, I think we just didn't hire people.
I just worked on bar
for like a while.
Yeah.
And then we waited enough time, and then we put feelers out again, and we got a lot of applications. I think there's like a big trend with that, a more large scale trend of employment crises, but there's also rhythms of a year. Like, when you think of like a calendar year, people are more prone to apply for jobs at certain times of the year. So, next time we have a shortage of applicants, like right now, which if you're interested in working with us, email hiring@valor.coffee.
Or call 555-555.
Valor.
Valor.
I think the cycle of the year has a lot to do with it. Like right now, we're just getting tons of summer job applicants. There's nothing wrong with that, but we're not looking to add summer job.
Unless your name is Lyndon Height.
Right.
Yeah, and if you're not, it's like, thank you, next.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But yeah, that's a huge thing to consider. What time of year is it? Do you just need to wait a little bit of time? Obviously, it's hard on everyone to work extra.
Yeah, what are you willing to compromise on?
Yeah.
You gonna close early? You gonna have less people around? You gonna pick up some slack yourself? What does that do to the business if you're working on bar instead of somewhere else?
There's levels to this stuff.
Wake up, people. Hey, can I tell you guys something else? I thought just after what I said, he shares a little anecdote, and it is lovely. He says when EMP was up and running, I felt confident that the entire team had my back. Wait for it, literally. Let's say I was clearing a table and a guest started to engage me in conversation. It's gross, a little bit of an overstatement, to stand there chatting with an armful of dirty dishes, yet I never wanted to squander an opportunity to connect with a guest. So I'd tuck the dishes behind my back, knowing that no matter how badly my wrist strained, in a second or two, one of my colleagues would notice and be on their way to grab them from me. That's cool, okay? I know that might sound small to you guys out there, and maybe even you guys.
It doesn't sound small to me.
But to me, it's important.
Tell us how you feel.
I think it's cool. Full stop.
Yeah, I love that stuff too. When people anticipate your needs just so that you can connect with a guest more, I love that.
Whew. Chill.
I'm just going to start putting stuff behind my back and seeing what happens.
Like a knife.
Portafilter. I'm going to be talking to a guest at Brewer, and I'm just going to be like having a portafilter behind my back.
One last point, and we'll move on. He was discussing their goodbye gift being like a flex of these pastries. And when I started reading it, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But then he described why it was dumb. And
Why
I was
was it
like,
dumb?
Okay, I get it. He was basically like super time consuming. And the like his expectation was that people, if they had a bad experience, that wasn't going to change it. If they had a good experience, it's like they already had an exquisite meal and like maybe dessert. So like, are they going to eat those in the cab on the way back? Mm-hmm. Are they going to plan to eat them for breakfast and forget about them? It wasn't even like a really great breakfast pastry. So he switched it to granola because in the granola, it's like a humble thing compared to this like pastry flex. But he said that like it was a really photographed and shared thing on Instagram afterwards because people would just like use it for however many days because it wouldn't just go bad instantly. And then he has this quote: when you get too caught up in showing your prowess, look at what we can do. You're losing focus on the only thing that matters, which is what will make your customer happy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously the pastries was an extra thing, but to his point, you know, they didn't have to just flex this just for the case of doing it. So it made me think, you know, what are some things in the coffee industry that might fall into that category?
Ooh. Okay. We start serving drinks in vessels that can be turned into something when you're done with it, like a hat.
I wasn't talking about that specifically. I meant what's something that people flex?
I don't know. Ooh. Super small, but like when you do some monster latte art and it's like overflowing your cup, it's like, look at how good my latte art is, but you're going to have a really hard time drinking this now. That's small, but that applies.
That's a great one.
That was a real answer, Ross.
We've all been there.
That's
great.
Where
you're running drinks and someone has a crazy meniscus.
Yeah, that meniscus is like bulbous.
And you're like, and you have to walk like a snail.
How about refusing to serve espresso to go? It's like, dude, that's one that would make your customers happy. And it's all about what hill are you willing to die on and why? How does that help you to not serve espresso to go? That's my question. Because if it's just on principle, that doesn't really necessarily help you.
Michaela just tried calling me to let me know that I posted that Tanlines post I was talking about on the Coffee Sometimes Instagram. Thanks for having my back, babe.
This dude's got multiple accounts
on his phone.
Love my phone.
Yeah,
I love my phone. I have a new black case and it is very cool.
This book's been
if you
pretty
watch
awesome.
season 3 of I Think You Should Leave, smash like.
Come on.
What, Ross?
I was just gonna say I've been really enjoying reading this book.
Will Guidara, if you're out there, I just want to say thanks.
Yeah, if you're out there. He's out there. That's for sure.
If you are real, like this book is implying,
He's out
then
there and we're
thank
out
you.
here.
Dude, you made some of the craziest stories. I don't know how he came up with this stuff. Dude's just like a novelist. But a novelist writing a business book is very funny.
It brings a whole new meaning to ghostwriter.
All right. Well, we got a few questions from our Instagram. We're going to answer 3 of them right here and right now. Ethan, you want to read them?
Question 1. What does Riley use in his hair?
Oh,
dude.
Well, I will say question asker, Paul Judy. We've been asked this question
Pooty.
before, okay?
Pooty?
It's already been answered in a previous podcast.
Really?
Okay?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember. I think about it every day.
Wow.
I use a product called ADH Dry, okay?
Yeah.
So what you got to do, first of all, you got to have a good haircut. So you're going to find you one of those.
I'll cut your
Paul.
And Paul, you do. We go to the same place. I know he does. So then you're going to want to get ADH Dry. You're going to blow out your hair first, okay?
Yep.
After your shower, after you wet your hair, get it nice and dry. And then ADH Dry, you put in the product. Get it all over your hands and really go through every single part of the hair, not just where you're trying to style it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Do you think they have a WDT tool for this?
I think it's called a brush.
That would be a comb.
Dude, you sniped Ross on that.
Yes.
Ross is laughing.
This is like psych level humor right now.
Thanks for the question, Paul.
That was a callback.
And congrats on your new position at Valor.
Yeah.
And thank you for being a part of our team.
You're amazing.
Did you ask if anybody had questions, or did you just like...
I asked.
Oh, and that's what Paul, that's awesome.
Next, what is your first recommendation to customers who want to drink better coffee at home, i.e., beans, water, grind, etc.? That's from nowhere_Dan. Thanks for listening and asking your question, nowhere_Dan. I thought, we could dive in on this, but we should each just say, he did say, what is your first recommendation? So choose one area to make coffee brewing better at home.
Yeah. If you're not already using specialty coffee, buy specialty coffee.
Dang it.
Valor.coffee. We have some beautiful coffees there available for you. I'd get 1 bag of Free Throw, and I'd get 1 bag of Tanlines.
Bang.
And you got 2 different coffees that you'll be able to really start to go down the road of like, wow, different coffees taste different. I'm sure he knows that. But, this would be, I'm assuming he means just like somebody who is unhappy with the way their coffee tastes at home and they want to level up. I would say brew better coffee, even with your Mr. Coffee machine or your Keurig.
Nice. Ethan?
That's just like the answer.
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to say?
True.
Because like you can make good coffee taste pretty good on almost anything at home. I wouldn't get into the whole like water thing.
No.
And then I also would just get your coffee pre-ground and not even get a grinder if you just had a singular brew method. That's it, man. It's just that. Maybe a scale after that. Just to like maybe dial in. But that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nowhere Dan.
Yeah, I think my first product recommendation is to the average Joe. Would be a better coffee brewer. Before a grinder, before a scale, before anything else. Just because the temperature control on most of the cheap coffee brewers is poo-poo doo-doo. So to really level that up and then just get your coffee pre-ground at your local cafe on their EK43.
And if your local cafe doesn't have an EK43, run. Get out of there.
Get out of there.
Or on their nice commercial grinder. And you'll be good. Drink it in a week. On to the next one. All right. Thanks, Nowhere Dan.
So make sure to ask what roaster they use to roast the coffee and wait the proper rest time.
Yeah, that's huge.
Question number 3.
This one is from World's Most Okayest Barista, a.k.a. Brandon. frequent flyer here on the Coffee Sometimes
Thank you, Brandon.
podcast.
Hey, Brandon.
In what way has working in specialty coffee changed y'all as people?
Wow.
Great question. Well, questions like this are always, there's so many ways I could answer them. And one of the reasons it makes it a little bit more complicated is when people ask me what my background is, they're like, oh, like you own Valor. Like, what's your background? Like, what?
Valor.
And I was like, high school. Like, before this, I was in high school. Mm-hmm. So my background is not like Valor's taught me everything I know, basically. Or at least through Valor. But the short answer is it's taught me how to talk to people and gain social skills. Just all those hours of being on bar behind the cart, I think really accelerated my understanding of different types of people and how to connect with them. Because before I was just very like antisocial and like just avoided conversations in general. And I only talked to people that were like really close to me. I just avoided everyone else.
Or me, when you met me.
Right. That was like a weird thing that I never did. Was
That's
like
a God thing.
talk to some random guy.
Well, when you're looking at the most handsome dude and you've ever seen behind the counter, I mean, you're going to want to get to know him.
And then
Yeah.
like next to him was standing you know?
Yeah. But
And the handsome guy wouldn't talk to Ross, so he
That
had to talk
flowing hair and that bulbous nose just really. But yeah, that definitely had to connect to people and talk to them.
Raleigh?
to you. I would have to say the same. Again, you know, I think I will answer differently for the sake of answering differently. I have learned to be handy from working in specialty coffee.
Wow, great answer.
Things break fairly often. It's just the way that things work whenever you're pushing a bunch of water through pipes and stuff, or drawing a bunch of electricity. And then, you know, obviously the side of just like building out your own company. I remember I was probably like afraid to use a wrench when I first started working in specialty coffee because I was,
Dude, you had like freaking phobia.
wrench phobia.
It was so weird.
When I was 19 years old, I just didn't know how to do anything of those sorts. And then just kind of being around it, you gotta. I've learned how to get my hands dirty. Wow. That's what I've learned.
Come on.
Can I just make a quick point on that?
Yeah.
I think it's so important that happens to every person. That like you are forced to not have things handed to you on a silver platter in some extent. Like you learn to use a wrench because what was your other option? Like you couldn't afford to call a handyman or, you know, just like watch a YouTube video on how to use a wrench or like figure out how to use a wrench. Just putting yourself in situations. I feel that's another thing that comes to mind to me is I was forced to grow up and forced to like take responsibility because I didn't have any other option. I didn't have anyone to like, you know, lean back on.
Yeah, I guess the overarching of both of those things is just problem solving.
Yeah.
Which is pretty universal. And like how to operate in stress. Which is similar, I was going to say something around like operating in stress, but also like multitasking, you know, being able to perform a task and another task.
There you go.
What? Because coffee is a very like people forward facing business, you know, so you have to be like executing with your hands at a high level.
Yep.
Super high level. And then also be talking, chatting it up, cutting up. And a lot of industries, you don't have that privilege or challenge. You just kind of like do your thing.
Very true.
It's your thing. Do what you want to do.
All right. Moving on. Today we wanted to talk about something that we have had happen to us. And that is when we started this company, we were very zealous about our vision. We had a reason for doing things, which was to offer a hospitality-focused specialty coffee company, which wasn't really around back then too much.
As much.
But I think shortly after, I personally developed this feeling that I'm not talking about you guys. I'm not speaking for you guys. I wasn't qualified to do what I was doing. And I don't think it lasted for a very long time, but I definitely had a period where I was really worried about what our peers in the industry, specifically in Atlanta, thought about us, thought about Valor. And I don't know where this came from, but I know a lot of people call it Imposter Syndrome, and I have some views on it, but I don't know. Did you guys ever feel that way at all?
Yes. Probably the two main areas where I feel like imposter syndrome typically flares in different circumstances. So if I'm ever in a position where I'm around or talking to someone else in our industry, that is heightened. And then I think specifically at just the infancy of a business, it's a pretty constant feeling as well of just like, how can 19-year-olds have a business? Like, you should be calling this like a hobby. Like, how is this legit? You know?
Yeah.
So there's one like general that was always there, I think, for a while, you know, but I think the comparison thing really spikes it for me.
Yeah, I did not have this in our notes whatsoever, but I just remembered a situation where we were trying to strike a deal with someone for something, and they were a more established business, and they said something about us along the lines of like they called us infants, or
Oh yeah, I remember that.
basically just like insulting us for our age.
Yeah.
And
Ageist.
I remember trying and playing it off like, you know, obviously that person sucks, but like,
I mean, they're kind of right though.
they are right, but it was still douchey.
Sure.
And so I only played off the douchey side of it,
Yeah.
but it totally like tore me up inside.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember why, but I remember all three of us caring so much about what coffee people in Atlanta thought.
Yeah.
Because I think maybe contributing factors to that were that coffee in Atlanta was starting to blossom at that time in a new way, specialty coffee. You had Octane, you know, Revelator was opening up. Brash was sort of like our favorite, you know, like first crazy coffee experience. Chrome Yellow was like starting. I can't remember if they were open at that time or not, but and so it was just this new thing, and there was part of me that just really cared what those people thought, and I thought I remember being embarrassed that we weren't ITP.
Oh,
Did you guys feel that way? Like, oh, like you're not cool because you're not ITP. For those not local to Georgia, means in the perimeter. Atlanta has this highway that goes around it. But yeah, it was like we're in the burbs. You know, like we're lesser than.
every day I woke up, first thought in my head, you're still OTP.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that, and I think it's because we thought they were our target demographic.
Yeah.
Because that's who we were focused on. That was our peers. We didn't really know what our target demographic was.
Right.
And I mean, at that point, we wanted to open a cafe ITP, so maybe that was going to be our target demographic. But at the same time, it still wasn't. Those aren't the people. You can't just fill your cafe with only baristas.
Yeah. I think we really looked up to the people in our industry too.
Yeah.
At that time, because we were literally 18 and 19.
And in that season, I think there were a lot more like, maybe this is true, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but like a little more like career driven individuals within coffee.
Yeah.
So like working in coffee, people were like on their way to different things within the coffee world. Whereas I think we talked about it on a former episode about how like specialty coffee is starting to become so big that you're having to fill in. There's not just more of that, but rather there's other people that are not looking for careers within specialty coffee that are working at specialty coffee shops because it's a cool job.
Yeah.
So the seriousness of the industry has been a little diluted because of its growth.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you understand, Ross?
I think I'm tracking. Yeah.
I just
Just want to make sure you're on the same page as
I know
us.
Ross is up, or Riley's listening.
Yeah, I was too, actually. Yeah, there's too many risks involved with business. There's too many things to worry about imposter syndrome. And I know we'll talk about it and get into like what it is and all that, but there's like, you should worry about other risks than what people in your industry will think of you, or like what your father-in-law will think of you, or what anyone will think of you.
For sure.
And that comes from confidence.
Yeah.
But how do you have confidence whenever it's all in your head? Like that your future for your company, there's nothing tangible you can hang your hat on. But I remember like when I asked my wife's dad if I could marry her. It was right around the time that we were starting this. And like part of that conversation is like, how are you going to provide? Like, what are you bringing to the table? Basically, he didn't say that specifically, but it was like, I'm okay. I'm 19, but I'm starting a company
with my friends
in coffee, and I actually fully believed that we would always be successful. And that was
hats off to you, man.
And that is not because like, I think part of it was we had a good idea, and the good idea was coffee plus hospitality equally emphasized. That was a unique, valuable idea, and still is.
Do you think that was our idea from the beginning, like when you were 19?
Not from the very, very beginning, but I think shortly, like we picked that up very quickly.
Quick pivot.
So there was that, and I was like, and the other thought was simply like, why not me? Why not us?
Why not
now?
Come on, Alpharetta, get on your feet.
Really, though, it was like, man, we are 3 able-bodied men.
Beautiful.
Strong.
Let's
really
do
strong
this.
backs.
What can't we do? Like, and that was not because we had money. And that was not because...
Definitely wasn't because we had money.
Not because we had experience, but like we live in an amazing country, like where you can do stuff like this. You can just start businesses.
Capitalism, baby.
You can just raise $10,000 and not pay any of it back. Like we can get some mugs for people, and I'm referencing Kickstarter.
A few years later,
yeah, right. But it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And there is opportunity out there, and there's other parts of the world where stuff like this is not possible, or it's a lot harder. And so I think I thought about that. I also thought about how like my responsibility as a husband and a man to like make something happen. And that drove me so much. Like it was like I'm dropping out of not high school, of college. Like, let's go. Like, we're going to do it. There's no way we're not going to do it.
I remember you really digging in. You were reading Think and Grow Rich at the time, and you really dug into the burning your bridges point of Think and Grow Rich. You talked about that a good bit.
When you're 19, you have to think that way.
Yeah.
But what other options do you have?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just go to college, and like it's whenever my view on college is like, if I'm just going to go and I don't even know why I'm going, like just don't go do something else. And that's what I did. And I did burn every other bridge. And
you didn't have a lot of bridges.
There was no bridges to burn.
Yeah, that's what people always, anytime people ask us about risk, I think about like when we were starting, and I was like, there was no risk.
Dude, yeah. And I remember feeling that way at that time. There were so many people that were like, oh my gosh, such a big risk. I'm like, dude, what am I risking?
Yeah.
I can just go back to school. I don't have any money to begin with.
Paying
we're
off
already working other jobs.
$10,000 of credit card debt's pretty manageable.
Yeah,
you split it between 3 people.
You think that like I'm gonna quit my other jobs to start this? Like, no, I'm gonna do it on top of all that. And it was just like there's a bit of risk management there, but we minimize the risks so much.
We always talked about it enough. Like what you're saying, like, okay, we're about to do this step. Worst case scenario is X, Y, and Z. Are we cool with that?
Yeah.
Let's do it. It's
Yeah.
like when we were like, all right, let's upgrade to the cart. It's like, all right, that's going to cost this much money. We have to do this many events by this time to like break even. Do you think we can do it? Are we in? Let's go.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's way harder when you hear about people more established in their 30s and 40s trying to start their own thing. I'm like, dude, you got like kids, mortgage.
Dude, think about my mom, the last episode,
Yeah.
having this like super long, successful career at an organization that's obviously very successful at her stage of life. Like that's risk.
Yeah.
And she's totally crushing it and doing amazing. But which if you haven't listened to the last episode with my mom from Beyond Culture LLC, she's got an LLC.
Oh, sure.
It was an amazing one, amazing time.
She files as an S corp though.
But we're talking about. Thank you for that. We're talking about imposter syndrome and how you overcome it. And it was like, what is your confidence in? So that.
Yeah. So some points we want to hit here. The first one really is that when we started this company, we were imposters. We kind of touched on it a little bit there, but we didn't know what we were doing. And you probably don't either. I mean, you might know how to make good coffee. You might know how to offer good customer service, but there are going to be plenty of things that you don't do and you don't do right out of the gate. And that's just a part of starting a business. So just go ahead and stop and admit to yourself that you are an imposter.
Yeah, and to add to that, we didn't ever pretend that we knew more than we knew.
Yeah.
That was probably our strongest. I would say like our buy-in was a very strong pillar of our success early on. And another one was that we were very humble and receptive to and very aware that we did not know what we were doing.
Yeah.
And so all these amazing people around us poured into us, but that was because we admitted, okay, yeah, you're right. We are an imposter.
Yeah. So you might not have it together. You might have certain areas where you're strong. You might have other areas where you're weak, but that's where your values just matter that much more. So if we didn't have our values to fuel our company and our desire to succeed, our belief that we were going to succeed, our humility, we probably wouldn't have had the ability to keep going. Like those were the things that fueled us along that path. When things were tough, when we didn't believe in ourselves, when we heard people calling us infants,
babies,
when we had any amount of negative static or feedback.
Yeah.
So all those things are huge, and you have to lean on that because you are an imposter.
Yeah.
I know that's a lot of what I've heard on this topic in the past is like, no, like everyone's just out there not knowing what they're doing. And that's true to start, but if we came out of the gate thinking we were going to have a business model akin to Verve, then what were we thinking,
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to use that to your strength, basically. Like, I don't know. Help me. And it's amazing to see how receptive people are to that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, back to just enjoying the society that we live in. It's like every step of the way, it's like, hey, we don't know how to do this. Do you know how? Oh, yeah, X, Y, Z. Like, the biggest hurdle for me when it came to like opening a cafe was like, I don't know anything about architect, plans, permits, health department, city documents, and all this stuff, all like the paperwork side of it. But I just like go ask. Like, meet with our architect. I'm like, what does this mean? What do I do? And he's like, oh, just do this. And you're like, great.
Yeah.
So there's like, I think in some parts of the business, there's like a fake it till you make it vibe. But then it's like, dude, just own that you don't know what you're doing and people will help you because we love to help.
Yeah. Or to bring it back to coffee, like maybe don't go to the public cupping and like flex the knowledge you do have, but search out like the smartest person there and like ask questions about the things you don't know. That's just always going to do so much more for you in the long run. And if you're trying to like seek out clout in any way by acting like you know things, like what if you in your conversations of like with people learning about architecture, every time they said something, you're like, yeah, I know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like that quote that if you're the smartest person in the room, then find a different room.
Yeah.
That is very, very true in starting a business, because you don't know anything, and that is good. And I think whenever you pretend to know, it actually destroys your mental and emotional health. Like, think about when we were opening that cafe, you have all this list of things that you don't know. You don't know what an architect is. You don't know what role they play. You don't know all this stuff. You don't know the permits. And it's like, oh, I need to pretend like I know what all this means. That just overwhelms you. And then when you're overwhelmed, you make bad decisions. And so just facing the truth sets you free, and you're able to actually confront it head on and just be like, have the mental toughness to move forward.
That's good.
Second point, the best way to learn something, because you are an imposter, is just to do it. And that is the most vital part to starting a business is, I think anytime someone asks has asked us our advice on like, I want to start a business, like, do you have any advice? We're usually just like, yeah, just start the business. Because even if things go poorly at the beginning, you have so much time to fix it and learn. Then the only way to learn is trial by fire. So for us, like you were saying, like, we having the humility at the beginning to admit the things we don't know, that's going to help you a lot. And then never letting I don't know how stop you from doing something. And talking about what I've learned in specialty coffee, like the ways I've changed. We have had all these grand ideas, and so many of them are like, oh, we don't know how to do that, so we're gonna have to pay someone. We don't have the money. Like, we're like, nah, we're gonna figure this out so we can do the thing that we really want to do. So I think really, like, what separates people that succeed from those that don't is the willingness to put yourself out there under the eye of those who will think that what you're doing is a joke, or that you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, and to have the confidence that's actually what you want to do. Because when people say things like that, just be like, okay, watch me. Like, I'm going to do it.
Watch me whip.
I'm not going to, when I say watch me, it's like a confident thing, but it's like, actually, it's just an honest thing that I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm going to figure it out. And I'm not pretending to be something. Because a lot of times those people are just jealous of you because you're doing something on your own, and that is a beautiful thing. And I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah.
I think something really important, if I could go back and tell myself something when we were starting, would be like, hey, this doesn't define you. This is just a thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
I think so often there's a beauty in personalizing your business and like owning it and working really hard. But then there's where it starts to become detrimental when it's like you identify as your business. And I think you guys all can probably remember times of the ups and downs of going through starting a business and having a successful business where you just like, you buried yourself with the lows. And you're like, if the company is doing bad, then I am doing bad as a person. But it's like, dude, this is just a part of your life. It's a gift. Like, it's a gift to work. And like, it's a gift that we get to do this. And it's okay. We're more than our work.
Yeah.
But I think imposter syndrome makes you like, okay, you started something, so now this is the biggest thing that will ever define you. And everything that happens to it is a reflection of you. It's like, oop.
Right.
I feel like that's mental stress, like ups the stakes in a not cool way. I mean, remember when we were starting, we were just like called the Valor guys, you know? And it's like, oh man, we're like a thing now. We have to carry ourselves in a certain way. And like, because then people start to have frameworks for you and your company. And then you have the choice to like just match what other people think about you or to continue to grow and be above that. I can't imagine how many people probably, this is not in any shade. I don't even know anybody that would think this way, but I'm like, I can't imagine. There's probably a lot of people that saw young people starting a business be like, oh, that's never going to work out, you know?
Definitely.
And I probably have thought that about other small businesses too. But it's like,
and most of the time that is true.
Yeah. But we're saying is imposter syndrome, I think, is something that kind of brings you down because it puts a a cap on your ability and like your risks and your like your choice to go further and push beyond what you think that you're allowed to do, right? So it like keeps you quiet. But to push against imposter syndrome is to act in like a humble confidence to be something you're not and like change that. Anyways.
Humble beast.
Yeah. Go hashtag humble beast.
Yeah. And I mean, last up, like, who cares if people hate? I mean, likely there aren't that many people hating and you're just the biggest critic of yourself. So you think that there's a lot of noise.
Yep.
But even if there are, like, at least people are talking about you. We were talking about this with like social media now. A lot of people make content where they mispronounce things intentionally to get comments correcting them. Like, if people are talking about you, people are talking about you.
Hey, news is good news.
I'm not
right?
saying do something stupid. I'm just saying if people are talking about you, there's a reason. All right. But beyond that, like, not everyone's going to like you.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to like what you're about. People don't like that Valor is about hospitality first and then coffee second. And because, you know, coffee is an awesome product with crazy backstory and all this stuff. And I understand. But that's just who we are. And if you don't like it, okay.
Yeah. I think
Toot.
We've toot to you. We've talked about this before on the program, but in order to say something with your brand, you have to not say other things, or you have to say other things less to be able to say one thing more. Mm-hmm. And your vision statement or your mission statement or your marketing message can't just be like, we're going to be a good company.
Across the board.
We'll just be good in every category. Like we'll be great, because that doesn't mean anything. You have to press into one message or one thing to be able to lead anyone. Because if you don't, then it's just going to be people interpreting whatever they think you mean in their own way, and that will be aimless. And so for us to emphasize hospitality early on and still now, we are intentionally minimizing other topics we could press into, and topics that our industry cares about. But that is the beauty of an industry and the beauty of a community, is you have different players that are emphasizing different things, and it makes up a culture. And so for us to add a hospitality and company culture, employee care, that's what we've always been about and what we always will be about. It doesn't mean that our coffee's not excellent. It doesn't mean that, but it's like, in order to say something, you have to say something and not say other things. And that will offend people. But it just comes back to, are you actually confident that you are on the right track? And people in your industry probably shouldn't be the main way you gauge if you're on the right track or not.
That's radio gold, Ross. Yeah, totally. I mean, I definitely listened to that, and I let it affect me. I let, the thought of people being like, either one, they haven't even been in this industry this long and they're starting their own business, or like, they care about hospitality so much, but their coffee sucks. And I mean, maybe some of that stuff was true. Mm-hmm. Maybe our coffee wasn't great because we were focusing on that. We don't really hire people with coffee experience, so there's a bigger learning curve. Mm-hmm. That's just the truth. But we put in the systems in place that we can, and we think that it's net positive because of those things. Anyways, so you can listen to some of that. Just don't let it dictate your life. You, like we said, you probably don't know what you're doing, and just admit that to yourself and move on and learn what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And there's still plenty we don't know, and we can sit here and talk on a podcast, and having some years of experience has let us learn a few things. But what don't we know? What don't you know, Ethan?
What don't I know?
Let's all name one thing about coffee that is embarrassing that we don't know right now.
Okay. Something that we don't know.
I've always wanted to know a lot more about the science of grind size and like what's going on, because I think we just think in our little brains that it just makes it all the same chunks, but we all know that there's a lot more
microfines and boulders.
Yeah.
There's a lot of burr science out there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna tag on you. RPM of grinders. That's a big thing these days.
Whoa.
Like
how much that matters.
Some grinders you can change the RPM. Yeah.
That makes sense. For me, I don't know anything about varieties at all. I never think about it. Whenever somebody asks what variety is this, sometimes I don't know if I'm telling them the variety or the farm name. So I just usually opt out of those questions.
There you go.
But that's something I'd like to get into. I know some roasters really pride themselves in having the same, coffee from the same origin, same country, but 3 or 4 different varietals, and seeing the complexities of that. It's definitely a legit, real thing that I just don't know about.
But terroir is number one, locale.
Yeah, that's right.
Last thing I was going to say was that humility needs to be matched with willingness to receive that feedback and that counsel, right? Of yes, forget the haters, but also listen to the haters. And what are they saying? Is it divisive, or does it actually speak to your brand? Because that if you stop listening, you're probably going to stop growing. And that's to the critics and the what's a non-critic? Fan favorite?
Yeah, I had a moment like that recently. I think on one of our Kickstarter posts, somebody was like, if you have to ask for money for your business. Did you guys see this comment? It was like, if you have to ask for a handout, basically, to fund your business, then you're in the wrong business. And I was like, you're right. We do have to ask for handouts for our business, because it's not good enough. We don't make enough money to open a cafe in this climate. We didn't whenever we started our company because of a lot of things, and we still don't. And we still did it. Mm-hmm. So it's it.
And who cares, because we have the cafe now.
Yeah, and it's we could have started a cash cow of a business, but we didn't take that route. We decided to do a passion business, and we knew that going in, and we knew it wasn't gonna be this do a little, get a lot thing. It was do a lot, get a little, and it still is.
For sure.
And we work our buns off, and we don't get much in return. But we're headed towards that in some ways, but
we don't get much in return monetarily.
Right.
We get a lot non-monetarily.
Yes, that's what I'm trying.
And some free lunches.
Right. Well, that's the point of
some
a passion.
Valor, not free lunches.
That's the point of a passion business, is that it's rare that you can be very passionate about a business and make a ton of money off of it. Unless you're passionate about making a ton of money, then you can do that. But it's we did a fun, very, very fun, passionate-led business, and it's taken us a long time to make a livable wage, right?
Yeah.
And
if you want to call it that.
If you want to call it that. But we don't get a lot of money, but we get a lot of other intangible things, fulfillment, fun, joy. It's that's all there.
The 3 Fs: fulfillment, fun, friends.
Wow.
I don't mean to minimize that side of it, but I just agree with what that lad said. That if you clearly you have a faulty business model is really what he was implying.
I do think the cafe model is pretty faulty, as far as I think it's just such a beloved pillar in a community.
Yeah.
That the community bears the weight to make it happen. I think the people want a coffee shop so bad as a third home, third space, that everybody's willing to pitch in so that a community can have a coffee shop.
Yeah.
And you can see that in crowdfunding. You can also see that in real estate development.
Yeah.
Like real estate developers want there to be a coffee shop because they know that will make everything around it better.
Yeah.
And that's like an embarrassing but cool place to be as business owners because we're like, we need help.
Yeah.
You know, we're like pseudo nonprofit sometimes in that way. But like, yeah, we got like hook up with our like lease because they really wanted a coffee shop in Dunwoody. Like they needed that.
Yeah.
Dunwoody needed what we bring.
You also see it in the fact that customers come into our cafe every day and pay $7 for a latte. Like no matter how high the prices get, and we always want to keep prices as low as possible. Like, duh, that's what a business is. Like, no matter where they get, like people will still pay it because people, like you said, love coffee shops and they need that third place.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, on one side, it's like whoever commented that, like, do they have a business? Do they know
Sure.
the struggles of a business? Probably not. But second point, like, yeah, the restaurant industry is clearly flawed. When you have like Noma going out of business, they're supposed to be the best restaurant in the world. Like they're closing their doors. So it's not just, it's clearly a systemic thing. Like the concept don't work, and that's a fact. But it can work.
Yeah.
And we're going to make it work however we can. And if that means humbly asking for some extra cash, we're going to do that because we aren't afraid.
Yeah. And we're not going to do that if we don't need it.
Yeah.
We're not just going to like, once
we split it 3 ways.
yeah, once we just like fully fund a cafe, we're not going to be like, all right, we got to really get over the hump on this build out. We need $50K. That sounds good. That's not the intent. And it's just fun to be in this business. I 0% what I'm saying want to come off as like I'm a victim, poor me. We're in a business that doesn't make a ton of money. I love this job so much, and I love you guys.
Oh,
I love you.
I love that we get to work together, and I love the people we work with. It's all amazing. I wouldn't change a thing. Yeah.
well, hey, we want to give a quick wholesale shout out to close this episode out to our friends Jethro's up in Dahlonega. They're not too far from us, but if you're about 50, 60 plus miles north of us and you want a closer place to enjoy your coffee, your Valor coffee, head on over to Jethro's house, Jethro's Coffee and Public House.
Come on.
In Dahlonega.
We love you, Andrew.
Man, me and Ross used to spend some time in Dahlonega.
True.
We were in college at one point.
Probably where some of the first ideas for Valor were.
That's a fact right
birthed.
there. And we didn't have a coffee shop. We used to hang out at Starbucks up there.
I call it Charbucks.
Yeah.
I call it $5.
So dang expensive.
Yeah, so we used to hang out upstairs there and do our homework.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we had Jethro's, I don't know what we would do, man.
Maybe you wouldn't have even started a coffee shop.
Maybe not. We'd just been like, this market's already filled.
Yep.
And they push a great product. They usually have 2 different Valor beans on drip.
Love that.
And then they have free throw on espresso. And it just always tastes absolutely fire.
Yep.
So big shout out to Jethro's. Go check them out if you want to take a little trip to the mountains. And grab you a cup of Valor from our friends Andrew and Jethro's.
Give them discount code CUPPA. Great CUPPA. And maybe they'll give you a discount.
Hey!
They're not going to.
By the way, if you've listened to this point of this episode, you're going to get rewarded by a little discount code for Tanlines. Give it a try. Go to valor.coffee/shop/Tanlines. Also down in the description or show notes. And use code Tanlines Coffee sometimes. One word, all lowercase or uppercase, whatever. Tanlines Coffee sometimes. And you'll get 15% off that order.
Let's go.
Thanks for listening, y'all. The best way for us to grow on this podcast, the only 2 ways for us to grow are by you leaving a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or whatever the heck you're using. 5 stars would be preferred. And second, sharing this on your social media platforms. A little screenshot on your story, maybe a little screenshot of us on YouTube doing this. That would be really helpful. So we thank you for doing that and for helping us grow this thing so we can keep doing it. And I don't know, maybe make some money off of it one day.
Yeah.
Feed our kids, you know? All right.
Food on the table.
Love y'all.
Love you.
Love you.